I'm Sean White, and today we're meditating on carbohydrates. So with the exception of politics and religion, I can't think of anything more divisive than macronutrients, right? Say the words carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and it'll elicit some sort of response from somebody, and even worse, they'll feel compelled to give you their opinions. Awesome. So why is this? If it's a macronutrient and this is something that our body kind of needs in larger amounts, why is there such a problem? I think by and large, there's a lot of misinformation out in the world. I think a lot of people are confused. I don't think a lot of people understand how these different macronutrients work within our body. So that's what I want to do. I want to talk about each one individually, and today we're going to talk about the carbohydrates. So more recently, a friend of mine was on a weight loss kick, and they posted about the fact that they pretty much cut carbs out of their diet, and somebody responded in the comment section about how pointless and useless carbohydrates were. The reality is, carbohydrates are your body's preferred source for energy. Let me repeat that. Carbohydrates are your body's preferred source for energy, right? So your body wants carbohydrates, so we shouldn't be eliminating them completely out of our diet. So let's start by talking about what is a carbohydrate. So a carbohydrate is a food source that contains sugar, starches, and cellulose or similar structures, right? We have our simple carbohydrates, and this is going to be more of say a singular sugar, a monosaccharide. Think of things like white bread, desserts like sweets and treats and stuff of that nature, candy bars. Sodas, high sugary drinks, right? These are processed in the body very quickly. They enter your bloodstream very quickly and get used as energy. This is why you have spikes of energy as soon as you eat something like this. Then we have our complex carbohydrates. This is going to be more like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, things of this nature, right? So this is going to be say multiple sugars or polysaccharides, and probably contain fiber in them. They're going to give us a more even-keeled distribution of energy, and they're going to make us feel satiated longer. We're not going to feel as hungry as quick after eating those. So how does our body use carbohydrates for energy? Well, when we eat a carbohydrate, our body breaks it down into a simple sugar called glucose. Right? This enters into our bloodstream. This is known as our blood sugar. So if you hear the terms like high blood sugar, low blood sugar, this is what this means. At the same time that this is happening, our pancreas also produces insulin. Right? Insulin, to simplify it, basically acts like a key that opens the door to our cells to allow the glucose to go in and be used as energy. So that's the basic of how we use it for energy. Now, if there's an excessive amount of glucose in the body, the first thing that happens is some of it gets converted into another sugar called glycogen, and this gets stored in the liver and the muscles. So this is our first level reserve for energy, right? If we need more energy, it'll go to the muscles first to get this surplus, this reserve. What's being stored in the liver tends to get used more for our fight or flight response. So in the event you get chased by a bear, here's a little extra energy for you to mix with that adrenaline rush that you're doing. Now, if we have even more glucose in the bloodstream, an higher excess amount, well, then it gets converted into a fat called triglycerides. Right? Now this is our long-term storage. Think about a bear that goes into hibernation, right? They bulk up, so then when they go into hibernation, their body uses this reserve to keep them alive, right? Humans, we have the same thing. We don't need to eat every day. We could probably go a month and still live not the healthiest option, but probably end up being like malnourished because you're not getting all the nutrients that you need. But we could survive, right? So for men, this fat gets stored predominantly in our abdominal area. And for women, it's more in the thighs, hips, buttocks, lower abdomen, and later on in life, post-menopause, then it may get stored in the abdominal region. So now that we know how carbohydrates are used in our bodies, let's talk about where things can go wrong, right? Well, the biggest problem is when we have an excess amount of glucose in the bloodstream. So if you think about it, you go out to eat somewhere and there's all you can eat breadsticks, carbohydrates, and a simple carbohydrate. A never-ending pasta bowl, more carbohydrates. You put some sort of sauce on it. Even if it's just a plain tomato-based sauce, it might have a high amount of sugars, more carbohydrates. Then we have a couple of sodas, more carbs. A dessert, we have cake with icing and sugars upon sugars upon sugars, more carbohydrates. You see where I'm going with this. So now we have an increased amount of glucose in our bloodstream, and we have too much. So we could basically go like 3 or 4 days without eating and probably normalize out, but that's not the case. We tend not to be food insecure, and therefore we're always supplying our cells with the energy that they need, and therefore never going back to those reserves. We're never getting the chance of going to the reserves and using them up. This is why it's so hard to get rid of body fat. Now, if we keep increasing the body fat more and more and more, now we're reaching the levels of obesity, right? This has a whole slew of negative health ramifications, including various cardiovascular diseases, different types of like cancers, things of that nature. And so that becomes like a big problem. Now, also, the other thing that happens is we can start getting to a state of being pre-diabetic or diabetic. Now, what is diabetes? Well, there's two types. Type 1 diabetes is when your body naturally does not produce insulin. Normally you get diagnosed at a very young age with this. And like we said, insulin's used to open up the cells to allow the glucose to become, used for energy. If we can't do that, we're not using the body for energy, there's ramifications for that. So type 2 diabetes, on the other hand, is basically when there's an excessive amount of glucose in the body, the cells stop responding to the insulin. It says there's too much out there. I'm not opening up the door for you. Think about it, if you were going to have like a backyard barbecue and you expected 100 people and 4,000 people showed up, would you open up your house? No, you wouldn't, right? So this is what type 2 diabetes is. It's an excessive amount of glucose that your body's just refusing to be allowed to be used for energy. Now, this can be treated, right? You can do it in a lot of cases through, say, diet and exercise. You can get your levels back under control. If it is severe, you may need to go the route of using medicines. There are a lot that are out on the market now for this. So it's treatable. Now, if it goes on for a prolonged period of time, you may get to the point of something known as insulin resistance, right? So this is when your body just stops responding to the insulin altogether. It's been too long. It keeps saying no, no, no. Finally, it just completely like shut down and says, no, we're not doing this. Now, this becomes a much bigger problem because there's many cases where insulin resistance is not reversible. It needs to be treated through like medications and stuff, and it becomes a much bigger problem. So now, saying this and telling you what these negative health effects of carbohydrates can be, you might be thinking, well, they are bad. I shouldn't be eating them. I should cut these out of my diet. I should go Atkins. I should go keto. I should do anything. The reality is that's not the case. Like I said earlier, carbohydrates are your body's preferred source for energy. Problem comes in where we're just eating too much, right? So this is what we need to do. We need to be mindful of this. It's not that we need to cut carbohydrates completely out of our diet. That's not smart. But we need to understand where our carbohydrates are coming from, how much we're consuming, and how frequently we're consuming those. I want you guys to think about this stuff because I want you to be realistic. I want you to eat the things that you enjoy, but also understand what the ramifications of it. Anybody that's gone to Five Guys Burgers and Fries, which I love, and you get a large fry and they give you basically like a quadruple like serving, the amount of carbohydrates in that is like, could probably sustain you for 2 weeks. So you know, if we're going to do that frequently, then yeah, we're just going to continue to have problems. Balance and moderation, right? It's two things that I'm constantly preaching. Balance and moderation. There's a reason why, you know, carbohydrates are part of our macronutrients, things that we're supposed to have a fairly abundant amount. That doesn't mean an excessive amount. It just means in a larger quantity than other things like micronutrients. So think about that next time you're eating. Or if you're like on a weight loss journey, these are just things to think about because there's a lot of times too, there's going to be sugars and stuff inside fruits and vegetables that you might not be counting. They're better for you, but these are things that you need to be mindful of. So if you like this video, please click the like button. And if you want to hear more of what I got to say, then subscribe, turn on notifications, find out when new videos are coming out. And let me know what you think. Leave me some comments down below. Tell me, carbohydrates, are they the devil in disguise? Are they pointless or useless? Are they completely fine if you do it right? Let me know what you think. And until we speak again, be well, be safe, and be kind to everybody.